But that lady, that new press secretary, she's
that video, dude.
She's a gangster. And you know why they're prepared? Because they're trying to play gotcha.
Yep.
So she played gotcha with them. She checkmated them.
She came in there with that fucking Elon Musk flamethrower.
Play that video.
They have mocked him, they have shamed him, they have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up.
The women of The View have locked onto White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, unloading on her for doing the unthinkable, standing firm and refusing to cave to their usual political meltdowns. Their barrage was so unhinged that podcast heavyweight and cultural lightning rod Joe Rogan jumped into the fray, torching the daytime divas with zero hesitation. In his latest episode, Rogan ripped into The View for their over-the-top theatrics, calling them out as a crew of out-of-touch, virtue-signaling frauds. If raw, no BS commentary is your thing, you won't want to miss these blazing takedowns.
That lady, that new press secretary, she's a gangster.
That video, dude.
She's a gangster. Have you seen that video?
You've never
Jamie?
seen someone more prepared for a question in your life, Jamie.
Have you seen that?
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
Small point on that. Not the big point, but small point. She was so prepared for
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, she's supposed to be prepared.
That's why I
Jamie.
said you've never seen someone
You know
more
why?
prepared.
For that.
They're
for that
prepared.
specific.
Joe Rogan opened the floodgates by applauding Karoline Leavitt for holding her own and expertly handling every curveball the legacy media threw her way. He echoed what countless Americans are already thinking: Leavitt is sharp as a tack, confident, and crystal clear in her delivery. Let's be honest, we've never seen a press secretary this fast on her feet and locked in on the facts. Compare that to Karine Jean-Pierre under President Biden, who turned every press briefing into a slow-motion train wreck, stumbling through answers, clinging to her binder, and delivering little more than scripted fluff. That's why Leavitt feels like a gust of fresh air, poised, precise, and unafraid. But naturally, The View sees things differently. To them, a conservative woman with backbone and brains isn't something to respect. It's something to ridicule because apparently, a woman thinking for herself is still too much for them to handle.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
She's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Karoline's so-called crime? Daring to stare down the hosts of The View and flatly refuse to play along with their woke circus. That one bold moment landed like a punch straight to the chest of the progressive echo chamber. They didn't see it coming, not from a young, razor-sharp conservative woman who wouldn't apologize for speaking plain truth. But Karoline didn't back down. She stood tall, called out the double standards, and peeled back the curtain on their groupthink theatrics. And here's the kicker, she was absolutely right. Even liberals like Bill Maher, no fan of Trump by any stretch, have taken shots at The View for going off the rails. Maher has slammed the show for descending into a pit of empty outrage and identity politics. Theater.
Someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected.
When the far left starts losing Bill Maher, it might be time for some serious self-reflection. Karoline Leavitt didn't just suggest they look in the mirror, she held it up high and made them confront the absurdity staring back. At first, she didn't even dignify The View's attacks with a response. She had bigger priorities than entertaining. A crew of daytime drama queens, but the jabs kept coming. They mocked her credentials, dismissed her experience, and sneered that she only got the job because she was a 10. That was the breaking point. Karoline had kept quiet long enough, and when she responded, she did it with deadly precision, calm, confident, and completely unapologetic. These weren't aimless retorts. They were laser-focused takedowns that expose the hypocrisy of women who preach empowerment so long as you agree with them.
You do know that you're walking into hostile territory, right?
Certainly do. And look, I think I'm well prepared for that. And I'm incredibly honored that President Trump has instilled confidence in me to speak on his behalf behind the White House podium. It's been an honor to have a front row seat to the greatest political comeback in history.
Karoline Leavitt's takedown of The View was sharp, fearless, and delivered with surgical precision, leaving the panel stunned. Whoopi Goldberg tried to recover with emotional swings and recycled talking points, but Karoline had already exposed the show's fragile foundation. The View acts tough until a confident conservative woman challenges their script.
And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Please stop using that phrase and talking about, because you don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, you know, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought.
For Whoopi, her past fame can't hide her lack of meaningful contributions beyond Hollywood. Her commentary often feels out of touch, filled with bizarre rants and cringeworthy moments. She positions herself as an authority on racial progress, yet her real-world impact remains unclear. Instead of elevating the conversation, she lowers it, becoming more of a token voice than a true representative. That's when Joe Rogan stepped in and brought the fire.
It is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.
Joe Rogan didn't just clap back, he turned the table, flipped it, and walked off. And honestly, it was long overdue. He went full throttle, and every shot landed. Rogan tore into The View for what it's truly become, a chaotic mess of over-the-top rants masquerading as daytime TV. And he nailed it. Half the things said on that panel are so wildly detached from reality, you start to wonder if they've all come down with a case of intellectual rabies. Let's not forget Whoopi Goldberg's mind-boggling claim that the Holocaust wasn't about race, a remark so jaw-droppingly wrong it ignited outrage across the political spectrum. Or her bizarre take that Black Americans have it worse than women in America if those two identities are somehow separate and competing for oppression points. These aren't just gaffes, they're reckless, divisive statements that stir more damage than dialogue. And finally, someone with a massive platform called it out. Joy Behar tried to jump in and rescue her co-host, but not even she could survive the firestorm Rogan unleashed.
So Joy Behar went after Joe Rogan on The View, and he fired back spectacularly.
You're worried about losing your job, and you're worried about podcasts taking over, and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us, and he won, and this is and Joe Rogan believes in dragons. And you know why they're prepared? Because they're trying to play gotcha.
Yep.
So she played gotcha with them. She checkmated them.
She came in there with that fucking Elon Musk flamethrower.
Play that video.
Joe Rogan brutally mocked Joy Behar for her absurd claim that he believed in dragons, using his signature sarcasm to tear apart not just the comment, but Behar's entire string of unhinged rants on The View. He exposed the show's hypocrisy, shallow outrage, and lack of real substance, then flipped the script to praise Karoline Leavitt. Rogan applauded her for staying composed, intelligent, and unapologetically clear in a media circus full of noise. To him, Leavitt represents the rare voice of reason in a landscape dominated by empty sound.
Think of Whoopi Goldberg saying it's worse to be a black person in America today than a woman in Iran. You know, I see we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is a great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be we got to do something about The View.
Bill Maher echoed that sentiment, calling The View a symbol of everything wrong with modern progressivism hysteria, identity politics, and silenced dissent. What used to be classical liberalism has now been twisted into a movement allergic to open debate. In this chaos, Karoline Leavitt stands tall, sharp, fearless, and unafraid to confront the narrative. Rogan's takedown, paired with his support for Leavitt, reflects a growing frustration in America. If real progress matters, it's time to stop platforming outrage and start elevating clarity. Karoline just gave us a masterclass.